A monthly retirement budget of $2,000 may sound restrictive in many countries, but in parts of Central Europe, it can still support a stable and predictable lifestyle if expectations remain realistic. Hungary is often overlooked in retirement discussions, yet financially, it remains one of the more accessible European countries for retirees living on a fixed income. This video focuses on what $2,000 per month realistically covers when living full-time in Hungary, without lifestyle marketing or relocation promises. All numbers in this breakdown are based on conservative long-term living assumptions rather than short-term travel costs or idealized retirement scenarios. The goal is to understand sustainability over many years, because retirement decisions based only on optimism often become stressful later. Housing is the most important category to analyze first, because rent largely determines whether a retirement budget remains flexible or becomes constrained. In Hungary, rental prices vary significantly between Budapest and smaller cities, making location choice one of the most important financial decisions. Outside Budapest, a modest one-bedroom apartment in a residential neighborhood typically rents for between $600 and $650 per month. This estimate assumes a long-term lease in a local area, rather than short-term furnished apartments aimed at tourists or temporary residents. For this analysis, we assume an average monthly rent of $650 to reflect realistic housing costs. Housing quality matters as much as price, especially for retirees who spend more time at home and rely on efficient heating and insulation. Older buildings are common in Hungary, and while rent may be lower, heating and maintenance costs can be less predictable over time. Choosing a newer or recently renovated apartment can reduce long-term costs, even if the monthly rent is slightly higher. For retirees on fixed incomes, predictability often matters more than achieving the lowest possible rent. With housing covered, we can now examine food and daily living expenses. Food costs in Hungary remain relatively affordable, particularly for retirees who shop locally and prepare most meals at home. Monthly grocery expenses for one person typically range between $300 and $320, depending on diet and habits. Local markets and supermarkets provide access to fresh produce, meat, and dairy at prices that remain manageable on a fixed budget. Eating out is affordable on occasion, but frequent restaurant dining can quickly change the overall budget balance. For this breakdown, we assume a conservative food budget of $320 per month. Healthcare is one of the most important considerations for retirees, especially as medical needs typically increase with age. Hungary offers public healthcare access, but many retirees prefer private care to avoid longer wait times and administrative complexity. Private health insurance in Hungary typically costs between $120 and $140 per month. This analysis assumes a monthly healthcare cost of $130 to reflect realistic long-term coverage. Private clinics generally provide reliable care, but navigating the system still requires patience and adaptation. Utilities and basic services form the next category of expenses that must be considered carefully. Electricity, heating, water, internet, and mobile services typically total around $270 per month. Heating costs can fluctuate seasonally, particularly in older apartments with less efficient insulation. Public transportation in Hungary is affordable and reliable, reducing the need for private car ownership. For this budget, we assume $270 per month for utilities and everyday services. Adding these categories together allows us to calculate a realistic monthly cost of living. Rent at $650 plus food at $320 brings the total to $970. Adding private healthcare at $130 increases the total to $1,100. Including utilities and services raises total monthly expenses to approximately $1,370. This leaves roughly $630 per month available for discretionary spending or savings. That remaining margin provides flexibility, which is often missing in higher-cost retirement destinations. Unexpected expenses, travel, or medical costs can be absorbed without immediately creating financial stress. However, affordability alone does not define retirement quality or long-term satisfaction. Cultural adaptation, language barriers, and bureaucracy are real challenges retirees must consider when moving to Hungary. Daily life can feel slower and more traditional, which suits some retirees but frustrates others. Inflation is another factor that must be considered carefully when evaluating long-term retirement affordability. Hungary has experienced periods of higher inflation volatility, which can affect food, energy, and everyday expenses. For retirees on fixed incomes, inflation reduces purchasing power more quickly than in more stable economies. Currency fluctuations can also impact retirees who rely on income from abroad. Long-term planning in Hungary requires maintaining a safety margin rather than maximizing short-term savings. Compared to Western Europe, Hungary remains affordable but requires realistic expectations and financial discipline. Compared to countries like Poland, Hungary trades some stability for lower immediate costs. For retirees who prioritize affordability above all else, this trade-off may be acceptable. For retirees who prioritize predictability and system reliability, other countries may feel more comfortable. Understanding these trade-offs is essential before making a permanent relocation decision. A $2,000 monthly budget in Hungary does not provide luxury, but it does provide sustainability. The math works only when lifestyle expectations remain aligned with financial reality. Retirement success in Hungary depends more on mindset than on chasing the lowest possible costs. For some retirees, Hungary offers peace of mind through affordability and simplicity. For others, cultural and administrative adjustments may outweigh the financial benefits. This is why retirement planning should focus on numbers first rather than marketing narratives. Hungary can support retirement on $2,000 per month, but it is not a universal solution. The budget works best for retirees who value financial margin over lifestyle fantasy. Understanding both benefits and limitations leads to better long-term decisions. This is Retirement Cost Check, where retirement decisions are based on real numbers rather than promises. This concludes the video.